Welcome back on the 141 episode of the Leaders Who Care. Really honored to be here again with you, and thank God for having the opportunity to have this episode today. We have the privilege to welcome a incredible guest who actually is doing something very interesting and unique in today's world of work. I have the privilege to welcome Kremena Yordanova, who is a seasonal marketeer turned digital consultant, currently serving as a fractional CMO for impact-driven brands. That's getting very trendy, being a fractional CMO. Would love to hear more about that. But as you know, we're on a mission to bring some of the most caring leaders from every corner of the world and every dimension we could possibly find. And really, what brings us together is the focus of looking beyond ourselves. How can we take care of others and do positive impact? And I thank you, Kremena, for joining us today. Your journey includes leading a large inclusive teams with brands like Reebok, Adidas, and blended with the corporate experience, and would love to hear more about your experience and your background. But first of all, thank you for being with us today and making the time.
Thank you so much for inviting me. Thank you, Marianne, for having me. Thanks everyone for listening in, dialing in. I don't even know where to start, to be honest, because when you mentioned my current role, it gave me such a big smile because it's inevitably been a long, long journey to get to the point where you can own a new fancy word, a fractional CMO. I come from a very humbling background, born but not raised in Bulgaria. I was born in Bulgaria. I had a couple of years in Siberia. Those were the times back then. And my family had to move quite a bit. So I always had this sense of not quite belonging in one place, not quite belonging in another place, until I found out that you only have to belong to yourself. And I've deeply developed practices that help me to do that and craft careers in big brands, as you mentioned, but also very proud of how I managed to achieve that. It was never about get the corner office, at least deeply for me. It was all about how can I be of more service? How can I actually learn more? Because when you come from a place where opportunities seemingly were scarce, there were not so many opportunities. I left Bulgaria more than 20 years ago. And the narrative there was that you can't realize your dreams here, which was sad at the moment. But honestly, I think that now things are shifting and changing. There are so much more opportunities back home. And I left thinking, wow, how can I fulfill my dreams? And the one way to do it is how can you add more value to others? That is so misunderstood because as females, sometimes we are often given the chance to people please and all of that. But it goes beyond that. It goes way beyond that. Servicing and making sure that you're exceptionally good at your work, but you have a deeper why. And I think intrinsically when you connect with your values and you have practices to maintain them, it's just as easy. It's easy. Things just click. I moved to the Netherlands in 2005, and I've been living here ever since. In the beginning of my journey, I was telling everyone I work here. I never mentioned I live in the Netherlands. I always say I work here. And the first part of my career was definitely like that. For a decade, maybe I had to work a lot of effort and hard work. And by hard work, I'm talking about really, really getting clear on where your blind spots are so that you can meet that gap. Opportunities were given only when you have the chance to see you're ready before you're ready. And I jumped on so many opportunities that on paper, I might not have been even the right candidate. And if you speak to any of my leaders at the time, they will say like, yeah, you weren't ready, but you are ready in a very funny way, because it's like when you have this self-belief that, oh, I'll learn any skill, I know I'm ready, and you go for it. I was leading multiple teams in multiple geographies with different um, KPIs, like this matrix environments that we have, and I've learned a lot. So now for me, jumping on owning my own time. Fractional CMO, some people ask me, what does it really mean? It sounds fancy, but what does it really mean? Some of my friends are even asking, why you go for roles that you it needs maybe a paragraph to explain? And it's because time is super valuable. Your skills can be deployed in a much more impactful manner when you get the chance to dictate, when you can employ those skills for brands that you actually care about. At the moment, I have a portfolio of clients that I deeply believe in their mission, I deeply believe in their vision, and I don't get the chance to stay monofocused. I can actually get some ideas from another client and employ them in a very different industry. And it just sparks more innovation. It sparks more conversations outside of our little bubbles per, wow, we don't discuss this, we don't discuss that. No, it's a time for all leaders to come to a table that is more inclusive and we learn from each other. For me, the way to do it is having a portfolio of clients that I'm super proud of, that I know that when I wake up, I can contribute to their cause, and vice versa. I know that the teams that I'm leading, the teams that I'm forming, the teams that hopefully will be able to attract in the future will see the same values in the company and contribute their most valuable asset, which is their time. Skills can be learned.
You
Mhm.
know, you mentioned something really interesting here. I think it's probably a lot of people may crave, especially in leadership positions, and not only. Also, younger people might aspire to do in the future like a fractional role, whether it's a CMO or CHRO or leadership role. So um, it's you're doing it already, and you're blessed to have a portfolio of clients that are really mission driven and impact. But how do you build up to that? So in other words,
Yeah,
what is the if we just reverse back, what are the steps? How could someone that is interested to do a fractional role in their relevant field um,
yeah,
can achieve that in order to have the credibility and the clients ultimately?
yeah. To be very honest, and this is the typical answer. Well, for me, it just happened. I'll share my story how it happened for me because I didn't even think that that's an option. But while I was still exiting the existing corporation that I was there for 17 years, I already was consulting on the side with some of the clients that I have even now, and they were literally saying, "Well, when would you be available to work with more hours with me?" And this is the difference. I only work with clients that use the verbiage of, you don't work for me, you work with me. If I align with the mission and vision and I genuinely think I can add value. I think for anyone aspiring to have a fractional anything or providing the value is where it starts from. So start having conversations before you're ready. Start having conversations with, hey, I really love what you're doing in X, Y, and Z. Here's the type of skills I'm harnessing, I'm having at the moment. Would you like to start with a project? I didn't have on retention clients until maybe the first 5 months when I started doing that. So initially it starts with pilots. So nothing stops you to start before you're ready to approach companies or startups or scale ups where you can say, I think my skills can add value. Can I help you with your go to market? Can I help you with anything you're really confident in your skills and you can create a reputation for yourself? Um, Making sure that the clients understand what you bring to them is crucial. And if you're in a marketing environment like I was, the most difficult thing is to market yourself. We often find that it's easy to sell any product because we know how to do it. But when you need to do it for yourself, it becomes a little bit more challenging. So just be open and honest about where your skills end, where your skills can be um, outsource and create already a team, your dream team in your mind, your dream team in your head. The projects will come when you align with I have the team, I have the confidence, and then openly speak about the fact, hey, I'm looking forward to try this. I often get asked like, but how do you do a freelancing? Because again, just to remind everyone, I've been 17 years in the same company. With that legacy, it takes a lot of courage and a lot of unlearning of how to be independent. So I would say that for me, I was, yes, lucky enough to have clients already waiting for me to take on projects, but those projects were built up because you create relationships with them. So if you're good with putting yourself out there and being absolutely okay for people to say not now, not yet. For some of my clients, I've been in conversations for 3 years. I know it's not comfortable to hear that, oh, you need to wait 3 years. But if they weren't ready for your services 3 years ago, nothing stops you to cross check on them. Things change, things evolve. I would say don't waste too much of the energy to constantly be there, but be there when it means a lot to the consumer or the client. Because the way I got one of my biggest client is by simply checking, hey, did anything change? It's a one-liner that can change your life to be doing something vastly different. Um, I would say that start before you're ready. Harness your skills. Put yourself out there. Not in a I didn't do it like introducing, and now I'm CMO and now I'm doing this. I didn't do a massive campaign about it. I just was very keen on speaking to as many people as I can. And it takes courage to show up. Just show up in places that normally you wouldn't be and openly share what you can help with. Again, back to the service.
Well, I think what was really interesting is that while you were
Hmm.
in your position in a full-time role, you were already adding value to a number of those organizations.
Absolutely.
So what you did is you were building relationships, and you're saying put yourself out there, meaning start helping before you are in a position to start working for them. So it's like really build up to that, and then there will be a moment where the relationship is already established, and the moment you step out of your full-time role, the likelihood is much higher to be given a project because they already know you, they already seen you, they already benefited from your value, and I think and ideally requested maybe to have.
Yeah, and for me to niche myself also with the impact, it took a little bit longer. It all changed for me last year. Last year, September, I went and I participated in the Health Prize, and we were mentoring very impact-driven startups. And I didn't even know that there was exactly what type of clients I've always been helping anyway. So for me, that's when it clicked. It was only a year. No, what I'm saying last September, yeah, and it was so beautiful to see because this is exactly the type of clients I know I can help because my internal values and their missions are aligning, and you can contribute so much more when there is no difference between how you really feel about what brands should be doing and what you can use your skills for to bring them to the next level. And sometimes the next level doesn't need to be measured in, uh, 3-digit growth. And I love working also with longer term companies that have vision that maybe the world is not yet ready yet to see. And that's where it gets very exciting because you don't work on a quarter per quarter basis. You really put work for the longevity of a mission that you just believe it needs to be seen. That's how it all happened to me. Yeah, I'll be more than happy to also connect with anyone that is contemplating seriously about it. And in a world where it gets so busy, genuine help and genuine conversations with potential clients will bring you so much further than any polished deck, than any um, pitch decks. So I would I would urge people to really go back into, if you're in alignment with what you want to offer and you're not scared to share it, um, just get ready, because it most likely will happen.
And you organize a number of international retreats, workshops, leadership programs. How does that fit in with the fractional CMO role?
Thanks so much for this question, because it's perfect, because before, when I was full-time employment, I was still doing the retreats, and everyone was saying, so let me understand that you don't have holiday. And I'm like, no, because I used all my holiday to host the retreats. And I think there is such big power in taking people outside of their normal routines. There must be a deep desire for people to travel to another place and stay with themselves and work on the things that they think will make a big difference. And every leader needs to be a little bit more attuned to their self-awareness, because as leaders we really have a lot of impact on the people and on the decisions that we're making. So I used to host those retreats. The most fun one were the ones that we would go to a very foreign country, even different continents, and we wouldn't even know how things would develop. And it puts people in a different mindset, in a very different environment. We use yoga and meditation as a base for all the other leadership skills that need to come. So we practice things like yoga ethics, and I would teach that with either some other colleagues of mine or bring additional facilitators. But it always was like part of, since 2015, I've been running retreats, and most of the times it was about giving permission for people to tap into who they already are. And it sounds very easy to do, but it takes time and practice. And now that I get the chance to define when are the times that I'll be working with a client, where are the times that my program for the retreat is ready, it gives me this more depth to, instead of running 3 days retreat, I'll do a 5 days or 7 days. I normally don't do more than 7 days, but maybe next year that's the time to dream bigger, because time is an asset that you get to really make sure how you want to use it. I would say it fits so beautifully, because you get to dictate how much of the work you want to do beforehand, and then be extremely present with your team, with your people that you're leading. I used to say, if people trust me to lead them on a spiritual journey, or in just being with themselves and me guiding and holding space for them, it's so much easier to be leading a boardroom, because the things that you're doing there are deeply ingrained layers that need to be removed, or things need to bubble up. And then when you go and you discuss, I don't know, even if it's just a campaign for a client, it's so much easier. So it fuels me.
You know, if
Hmm.
about more executive retreats, people, obviously, time is very precious. So if we, depending on the level, but if we giving an advice to a CEO or leaders that are very busy and barely can spare a day, never mind,
Hmm.
or a few hours, never mind a day, how do you get them on a retreat that is 3 days or 5 days long? That's
I love this question. Obviously, the leaders that will come to those type of retreats already know the value of it. I am a big believer, you don't even need to convince them, because they will know. The saddest thing is that they will come to your retreat when it's too late. Then you almost have the chance to, oh, maybe they lost track of why they're doing what they're doing. They lost track of what's important and how to embed a better self-care routine, or anything of those somatic practices that I'm teaching. So almost it will be, the more successful or sustainable leader you want to become, the more time you need to craft for yourself, and how you want to build those skills, because it's practice. There is no shortcut. We might like to do hack here, hack there, but this sustainable, deeply ingrained knowing of self-awareness, it's super important. I would say you speak to them the way that it really attracts their biggest issue. If time is this, you can just obviously mention it doesn't take time, it gives time. Because after a retreat, they will have so many more perspective that maybe they were circling around. You can't expect the same type of thinking to bring new results. So you need to snap out of your ordinary routine of being constantly busy, being with full agenda. And I've been there. I mean, we've all, maybe not to the extent of having a whole organization on your shoulders, but definitely a department is already a big deal. And the more time I took for myself to craft these practices, the better I could handle any of the crises and any of the tough conversations I need to have as a leader. I think burnout prevention and really figuring out how to take good care of ourselves as leaders is non-negotiable. It's and yes, you might not think one retreat a year will do everything for you, but it will give you glimpses and it will give you tools and equip you. Um, I never went to a retreat myself as a participant or done one where I thought, wow, that was a total waste of my time. And if the narrative for some people, I'm too busy to give myself this, um, shift it around and be surprised how much more you'll learn. I would argue that those are exactly the people that will need it the most. Yeah, but it's very true what you're mentioning. We we fill our calendars with other stuff that the
How
long term
often
might not be. Go ahead.
do you think, in ideal scenario, ideal world, you would recommend an executive to do a retreat in a year? Is it one retreat per year, or what do you think would be?
It really depends, but I would say twice a year is a good measurement for me. I used to. I don't get me wrong. I don't promote that everyone should be like every day on a retreat. That also is counterproductive, and I don't believe in that either. But what I would say is that so many things are changing, and we don't give ourselves the chance to reevaluate what's changing within us. And I think it's a responsibility as a leader to really be intimately and radically honest with ourselves and have a practice that allows us to reconvene, talk to other people, not just being in the echo chamber of like, wow, this is how we run this company, this is how we do things. And they'll be surprised how much more impact they can have. Twice a year, I would say it's perfect. But even if it's once every 2 years, um, if it's a good one, if it's the one that you know that I'm still digesting some of the things that I've learned from 2 years ago. I'm still implementing things from 2 years ago when I went to my personal retreat as a participant. So it's really depending on how often you get the chance to practice what you've learned.
I know Tony Robbins does these great retreats for
Yeah.
executives and a number of others, but uh, how many days do you think is minimum requirements? And
From my experience, I think 3 days you're just brushing, like you're scratching the surface, and on the fourth day, at least in my retreats where the magic happens. So I used to think that 4 days a year. Let's start there. Yeah,
4 days a year?
yeah. I would say at least, yeah. Mhm. What is your opinion of that? What was the
Uh,
one? What was the one? Because the duration sometimes is so funny. In a month, I'll be in Switzerland doing a 7 day, and we were discussing the program over and over again, over and over again. And the people that will join will have a little bit more time because you also would like to use nature as one of the anchors and give them a chance to have free time so that it can really sink in. And and the program, actually, we had to remove things because we were like, no, this is too busy. We need to take off this, take off that. So crafting a program is art on its own. But yeah, next one is 7 days.
Well, yeah, it very much depends. I think at least 3 days is, but anything between 3 to 5 days is actually, it depends. If you're doing a fit camp,
Hmm.
for me, it's 7 to 14 days, because you might want to achieve a certain goal within your physical body, that you need probably longer. But if it's more obviously the uh, on the spiritual side, and that
Hmm.
it's really takes, it'll be a few, could be less days. It
Hmm.
depends. If you're doing a fast, it could be 40 days. So it's like, you know there's really, depending on the purpose of the retreat or what we're looking to achieve, there's a different longevity. But I
Hmm.
relate to this. If you can craft out at least 3 to 5 days in a year to really connect with you, catch up with you, just to understand
Hmm.
what's going on, and I mean, technically we should do that every day, through prayer, through really doing that, but often people don't, and this is where the challenges come in, because there's a lot of arrows that fly by day. There's a lot of, and if you are not protected, you know there's a lot of, as you said, burnout, mental health issues, and so forth. um, but yeah, my take is, it depends on the goal.
Totally. If it's just to maintenance, so to say, it's a beautiful what you mentioned, that we don't craft time in our busy calendars to attend to our other needs than just the physical and the, like, oh yeah, I need to eat specific food because of my brain. But have you attended to the other needs that we have? Um, in 2020, a friend of mine and I, we we start organizing conscious leadership talks, tea talks. And the premises of the whole thing was that we'll drink just a cup of tea together, meditate, and discuss topics around leadership that we believe should be seen more of, and have a exercise on like 2 to 3, not more than that we get the chance to practice for a month, and then we come back together. It was interesting because it was always invented to be in person, but then we launched it in 2020 because that's when the tea showed up. And we were like, okay, we're going to start doing it online. It still worked online, and definitely it was not ideal. But what I can say is now that we get the chance to do it in person, it's magical, because you'll be surprised how many people don't even allow themselves to have 5 minutes to meditate with a beverage. And it could be tea, it could be something else, but it changes a lot.
Uh, Thank you for sharing those insights, and coming back to your expertise in marketing,
Hmm.
and really, how has storytelling changed in the in marketing as the world gets more and more digital and there's a lot more access to information?
Yeah, things. I I honestly am, maybe I'm more on the optimistic side of things, because yes, we have this complete attention industry where we are, as marketeers, fighting over people's attention constantly, having so much content. Myself, I'll be known for showing, and this is how many pieces of content we this is how many impressions. Like, we have KPIs like that on the digital landscape to track our progress. But what I really want to believe in is that we'll go back to doing human to human interactions. That yes, digital is one modality that we'll be using because that's where the consumer and customers are often. But should they really be there? Should they really be there if you're not adding value? So I would love all of our marketeers to think about the fact that, is there anything else you'd rather be putting in front of your customers' eyes, and really go through that decision making, rather than, oh wow, but we have to we used to run a lot of reactive campaigns, and we would say like, oh no, we'll lose an opportunity if we are not reactive. I want us to be all very, very proactive, because through marketing we definitely have a chance to change people and change them to do one action to another. And we have a massive responsibility what that actions are. It's never about the funnel. It's never about converting, at least in my eyes. It's always about changing people's idea about, should I invest my time, effort, money in this product, or should I invest my time, money, effort on that product? And we have massive responsibility to do that. Yes, we can improve things. Yes, we can be so much more productive. Yes, there are so many tools to allow us that, but I would ask every marketeer to go back and think of themselves as an artist, and think of themselves as, wow, I have actually a massive responsibility when I do these things. Do you add something to your customer, or are you distracting them? And yeah, and we have so many channels to do that. It's quite fascinating. Yeah, I think a lot has to change, and it's already changing, but we are almost completely unprepared about what is
Mm.
about to happen. And I don't like to speculate on like, oh, it's gonna be this, it's gonna be that. I I think people will step away from the distractions and go back to what really matters. And the brands that are capable of adding value to people's lives will continue to exist. And the ones that don't will just need to get very clear with themselves, similar to what we discussed about um, leaders coming back to retreats and rethinking, what is this all about? Hmm.
Well, you mentioned earlier you don't take holidays because
That
you do
was
the
when I,
retreat. Yeah, you when you were doing the retreats. So how do you take care of yourself?
thanks
Uh,
for that question. This is a very, very good question. I had a very strange relationship with resting, meaning that I didn't have any concept of it. I'm like, what do you mean resting? Like, my mind was constantly like, the next idea, this campaign. And even as I mentioned to you, I would take my holidays and I'll be with 20 people leading them to a hike in the Rio Mountains. And I'll come back and I'll be just like super excited about the whole thing. My relationship with rest developed very slowly by going to one retreat and just took a challenge to do nothing. It was such a foreign concept to me. I do teach people in Shavasana do nothing, but I would teach it and actually don't get the chance to practice it myself. So the challenge was that for a whole day, I will not touch my phone. For a whole day, I will not listen to a podcast. For a whole day, I will not read a book. For a whole day. And it was very challenging for me. This was before I went to all the Vipassana retreats. Mind you, I might say something here. I never managed to stay the whole 7 days on silent retreat. I only managed to stay for 3 days, and I'm not very proud of it. But that's where the state of my mind was 5, 6 years ago, because it was constantly working, working. Now I develop a morning routine, and we spoke earlier about it, that it's such a responsibility to take first care of yourself. First thing in the morning, do your meditation, do your practice, journal, walk. Walk seems to be my thing nowadays, especially when the weather is good. And when the weather is not good here in Holland, um, you walk anyway. It's non-negotiable. I would say that's how I take care of myself now. And it's a practice. It's not always comfortable. It's not always easy to say to people, I'm only available from this to this hour, because I used to be always available. And now it's like, oh no, let me reclaim some more time for myself so that I can come with even more energy. But yeah, resting was a skill that I had to learn. And I think
mm,
it's such a beautiful, such a it just restores you so differently. Yeah, I've taken quite a journey from what you describe of not having a holiday, a proper one, to actually claiming pockets of time in my current daily routine to say like, no, the best 2 hours of the morning are for me. Yeah.
If you had no limits or unlimited resources, what would be one thing that you would like to change
Mm.
to make the world a more caring, a more better world for us?
Oh, it's with sadness in my heart because I definitely see everything that is going on, and there's so much going on that it just not breaks your heart. But if it doesn't break your heart, there is something massively wrong with all of us. What I would say is things will shift and change. We need to get ready in a sense that we can no longer avoid the discomfort of what we've created. Um, and if I could change anything, it will be this awareness of people that everything we do or don't do has an impact. We maybe are told that, well, what can one person do? And then we only see role models that, well, but of course they can do it because X, Y, and Z. But actually, in the steps that we can take, there is massive power, and it's also very uncomfortable. So we need to sit with the consequences of all our actions or non-actions and decide from there how do we want to not react but really respond. Um, but there will be a deep shift happening, and there will be a lots of things that will be able to digest, and we need to be strong in our conviction what the new future looks like, not just in organizations, not just in geopolitically, and there is definitely a lot going on. Yeah.
Well, Kremena, thank you for your time today. It's been really a pleasure to listen and hear your story and your journey. Should anybody interested in a advice or fractional, a CMO, a role, what's the best way to get in touch with you?
Um, yeah, please pin me on LinkedIn. My name there is the same as seen here, Kremena Yordanova. You see me there. I get the chance to respond within 2 days. Realistically, just ask, and I'll be more than happy to share what I know so far. Yeah.
Excellent. Kremena, thank you so much. Blessings to you, your team, and your family, and thank you for being with us today.
Thank you for having me. Thank you.